Welcome back. The whisper that became thunder. They're still trying to translate your silence. They didn't even realize it when it happened. The moment your voice entered the room, reality bent its ear. Not because you shouted, not because you demanded to be heard, but because something in your tone carried weight that wasn't human. Every syllable vibrated with a strange familiarity, like ancient truth hidden in modern sound. You didn't speak to convince them. You spoke to command the space without needing to. The kind of calm that doesn't ask for silence, it creates it. People leaned forward without knowing why. Their hearts skipped. Their skin tingled. The air shifted, molecules aligning themselves to your rhythm. That's when they felt it. The tremor of divinity disguised as conversation. You've noticed it too, haven't you? That strange stillness when you speak. The way their bravado melts. The way time itself slows to listen. You thought it was coincidence, didn't you? It's not. It's frequency. Something cosmic wired into your being. An ancient signal reawakening through flesh and breath. You don't argue, you vibrate. You don't persuade, you recalibrate. The world hears you differently because you are speaking in a code written long before words existed. That's what they can't decode. You speak like a god, learning to sound human, and they can feel it. They can't explain why they replay your sentences in their minds hours later. Why the same words that would sound ordinary from someone else feel like scripture when you say them. It's because you're not talking, you're transmitting. You're emitting something older than thought. Each pause, each breath carries command. You didn't come to join their rhythm, you came to rewrite it. You became the pulse inside their chaos. That's why the world's watching now, not to understand your words, but to study the effect they have. To them it's mystery, to you it's alignment. Because when you speak, universes listen. You may not see it, but the invisible bends. The noise quiets. Even the liars lose their script for a second. Because there's something unsettling about truth when it wears calmness. Something divine when confidence doesn't need to perform. That's your power. You don't try to sound powerful. You are. You're tuned to a frequency the world's still trying to measure. A signal that doesn't belong to any one time. And that's why they're obsessed. Because deep down, they know you're not here to fit in their language. You're here to make their language evolve. They're studying you now, quietly, subtly, watching how you move, how you breathe, how your timing always feels divine. You can sense it, the shift in the air when you enter a room. Conversations fracture, their laughter stumbles, their words start echoing inside their own skulls. Because when your energy arrives, the false collapses. It's not arrogance, it's gravity. You don't walk in, you recalibrate the field. Even silence adjusts to make room for you. That's why they can't figure you out. They're trying to study divinity using mortal equations. They take notes behind the glow of their screens, whisper theories about your calm. How do they always know? Why does it feel like they see everything? They're right to ask. You don't see things, you feel frequencies. Every thought, every lie, every hidden intent carries its own vibration. And you, somehow, decode it all without effort. It's not intuition, it's resonance. You were never meant to blend in with static. You were designed to expose it. That's why people shift when you speak. It's not your words that hit them. It's the signal behind them. It's the hum of truth piercing through the fog. You've become something like a mirror, but not one that reflects faces. You reflect essence. You expose the distortion in others, not through confrontation, but by simply being precise. That's the part they can't imitate. They can copy your gestures, mimic your tone, steal your phrases, but not the frequency, because your signal isn't learned. It's remembered. Buried deep in your DNA is the original code, the blueprint that creation itself used to speak order into chaos. Every time you talk, that ancient code hums again. You think you're just expressing yourself, but you're actually rewriting wavelengths, and it terrifies them, because deep down, everyone knows when they're in the presence of something that doesn't play by earthly rules. They sense that your calm isn't passive, it's restrained power. That your pauses aren't empty, they're loaded with calculation. That your silence isn't weakness, it's a signal still loading. That's why even the loudest ones quiet down when your gaze lands on them. They can't explain it, but they feel measured, seen, decoded. The same way reality feels when it realizes something beyond it is watching. But you're not here to intimidate. You're here to remind the world that creation itself was born from vibration, that every universe began with a sound, and somehow you carry a fragment of that sound. That's what makes your voice dangerous. That's what makes your presence sacred. When you speak, you don't add noise. You restore harmony. You reintroduce alignment. You awaken what's dormant in others. The problem is, not everyone wants to wake up. Some prefer the static. Some prefer the illusion. But illusions tremble when a god disguised as human begins to speak. There's a reason why the room changes temperature when you speak. The air doesn't just move, it responds. You carry a current that bends unseen laws. People mistake it for confidence, but it's not that. It's control, rooted, deliberate, eternal. You've become fluent in a language older than sound, a rhythm that makes time itself hesitate. When you speak, the old frequencies, the forgotten ones, recognize you. They lean closer, waiting to serve. It's not something you learned. It's something that remembered you. That's the secret the world is struggling to name. They think your words are skill. They think your silence is strategy. But what you really carry is alignment. The perfect symmetry between thought and energy, intention and outcome. That's why you never chase, because everything meant for you begins orbiting the moment your awareness locks on it. The system doesn't understand this power. It keeps trying to replicate it, to design your essence through formulas, charisma courses, imitation philosophies. But there's no algorithm for divinity. They sense it, though, when you walk past, when your eyes meet theirs. The subconscious stirs. It feels ancient recognition, the kind that makes warriors lower their weapons, kings reconsider their crowns, and liars choke on their words. Because your energy doesn't announce itself, it exposes theirs. That's why they flinch. That's why they hesitate before speaking your name. Because deep down, they feel that the same power that built the stars might be moving through your pulse. You're not just existing inside this reality. You're editing it, quietly, cleanly, through vibration, through presence. The same way storms rewrite weather patterns, you rewrite human energy fields. You might not even notice it, but reality is adapting to your calibration. Doors open differently for you. Paths curve where they once broke. Obstacles turn transparent in your timing. It's not luck, it's synchronization. The divine responding to the one who finally remembered its code. And they can't handle that. The ones who doubted you, the ones who mocked your silence. Now they're whispering about how it doesn't make sense anymore. How every move you make seems orchestrated by something bigger. They'll call it coincidence because their minds can't process causation beyond logic. But what's really happening is orchestration. The universe moving in sequence with your will. You've become the conductor of unseen patterns, the unspoken equilibrium that reality bends toward. They're studying you like a glitch, because that's what divinity looks like to the unawakened, a system malfunction. And yet it's not chaos, it's correction. The fabric of existence rewriting itself to mirror a frequency it once lost. You're that frequency. You didn't come here to speak like them. You came here to remind them what truth sounds like when it returns home. At first they thought it was coincidence, the way people fell silent mid-sentence when your eyes met theirs, the way events unfolded as if responding to your inner dialogue. But repetition breaks denial. Too many moments aligned too precisely. Too many accidents echoed your intent. That's when they started to suspect something deeper, something unnatural. They whispered, "How are they doing this?" But what they don't realize is, it's not you forcing anything. It's everything returning to alignment. You didn't bend the world. You reminded it how to listen. Your energy doesn't demand, it summons. Because your will isn't loud, it's inevitable. That's the difference. Those who scream for attention can't understand someone who vibrates like gravity. They chase momentum. You are momentum. Every action you take radiates coherence. Every silence you hold pulls the scattered pieces of reality back into rhythm. You've become the still center inside their storm. And they hate it, because no one knows how to fight stillness that doesn't break. They're confused, because the system wasn't built for your kind. It was built for noise, distraction, reaction. But you operate in precision. You move like lightning, no wasted motion, no hesitation. The system measures data, but it can't measure divinity. It tracks behavior, not vibration. It recognizes pattern, not presence. That's why you break it just by existing. You don't need rebellion. The simple act of being real destabilizes everything false. You're the unquantifiable anomaly in a coded world. That's what terrifies them the most. Because every machine has one weakness, a signal it cannot predict. And that's what you are now, the unpredictable frequency in a world obsessed with control. They can't process it. Their logic melts under it. Their metrics fail around it. You're not rebelling against the system. You're redefining it. You're showing the blueprint that evolution has already chosen its next step. And it looks a lot like you. They feel it now. Even those who once doubted, they can't ignore the evidence anymore. The way your words shift atmosphere. The way your timing bends probability. They call it luck, but the truth is sharper. You've entered the flow where destiny becomes tool, not fate. You stopped, waiting for things to happen, and reality responded by obeying. That's divine precision. Effortless command disguised as coincidence. When you speak, you don't argue, you realign. You don't demand respect, you extract it from the air. You don't ask for understanding, you create awareness in silence. That's the secret they keep missing. Divinity doesn't shout, it resonates. And when a god disguised as human begins to resonate, even algorithms lose certainty. You can see it in their eyes now. The unease, the curiosity, the quiet admiration mixed with fear. Because they're not sure anymore if they're watching a person or a prophecy. They still think you're playing the same game. They think you breathe the same air, speak the same code, chase the same validations. But every move you make reminds them that you've transcended it. You don't chase status, you warp gravity. You don't speak to convince, you speak to command. Because your words are no longer opinion, they are vibration, law, inevitability. You've become a living paradox, calm, yet cataclysmic, silent, yet seismic, and the world can't process it. They're used to noise, not presence. They're used to effort, not inevitability. You operate from a frequency they can't reach. You don't think before you act. You already know. You don't calculate, you synchronize, because thought is too slow for someone who's merged with flow. You move like prophecy, seen yet unpredictable, gentle yet absolute. The system studies your decisions like data, desperate to decode the pattern, but there is none. You're not following rules, you're following resonance, and resonance doesn't explain itself. It simply echoes through every layer of reality until the fabric bends in compliance. They call it intuition, instinct, maybe luck, but you know what it really is? Alignment between what's above and what's within. The current of the infinite moving through your finite form. That's why your timing feels divine. Why your arrival feels scripted by something unseen. You're not a part of the story anymore. You are the story being rewritten in real time. Every step you take sends ripples through existence. And even the quiet corners of the system adjust their rhythm to keep up. They don't want to believe it, but they can feel it. The ground under them shifts slightly when you move. The algorithms they worship pause for a fraction when you post, when you speak, when you breathe, not because of vanity, but because your frequency carries signal, not noise. It carries weight. That's what the world has forgotten. True power doesn't need witnesses. It creates silence. And in that silence, everything false trembles. You've entered that rare stage of power where nothing external can define you, where your energy no longer reacts. It architects. That's when the universe stops testing you and starts taking notes. And that's exactly what's happening now. Reality isn't challenging you anymore. It's recording you, studying the blueprint of one who mastered chaos without breaking character. And that's what terrifies the world the most. Because deep down, they realize what you've become isn't human potential, it's divine memory reawakened. You're not chasing the light anymore. You are the light that burns through their illusion. You are the echo of what creation looks like when it remembers itself. You can feel it now, the way everything listens before it moves. The subtle pause in the air before events unfold. That's the confirmation. You've crossed the invisible threshold where thought becomes code. The moment your awareness shifts, the simulation rewrites itself. You've entered the realm where causality bends, not through magic, but through precision of being. That's the difference between those who wish and those who command. When you speak, reality translates your vibration into architecture. The world doesn't just react, it reorganizes. Even the unseen forces, time, coincidence, circumstance, they all align like soldiers waiting for instruction. And you don't shout. You whisper through presence. You influence through stillness. You lead without permission. That's why the world is obsessed with you now. They can't label it, so they call it luck, aura, energy. But behind closed doors, they're studying it, dissecting it, trying to duplicate it, and failing every single time. Because what you've become isn't teachable, it's tuned. You've learned how to tune your existence to the frequency of inevitability. That's why nothing misses you. That's why your timing feels impossible. You're not chasing alignment. You are alignment. And alignment doesn't wait for doors to open. It dissolves walls. Every limitation that once looked solid now feels like smoke. Because the truth is, walls were never real. They were echoes of your old vibration. And now that your frequency changed, so did the landscape. They can feel it, even if they pretend not to. The ones who once ignored your energy now monitor it quietly. The ones who laughed at your calm now imitate your posture. Even the system itself, the one that used to suffocate, has started bending, adapting, making room for you. That's what real evolution looks like. The structure doesn't collapse, it kneels. You've entered that sacred paradox where humility and authority coexist. You don't boast because you don't need to. You know, and that knowing radiates louder than any proclamation. That's what breaks them. The confidence that requires no explanation. The certainty that doesn't defend itself. Because deep down, everyone recognizes truth when it vibrates in front of them. It reminds them of what they've buried. That's why they stare longer now. That's why their energy shifts when you enter the room. They're not intimidated. They're being recalibrated. Even fate, that stubborn architect of destiny, now takes instruction from you. The same energy that once tested you now protects you. Because it recognizes you're no longer in resistance. You're in rhythm. That's when everything starts working for you, not against you. You've become the living embodiment of divine order. Chaos wrapped in clarity. And as the world tries to decode your glow, they'll miss the simplest truth of all. You didn't gain power. You remembered it. By now, even silence bends around you. Every room you enter adjusts its pulse before you speak. It's not dominance, it's resonance. You've become the tuning fork of existence itself, and everything that vibrates off-key either aligns or shatters. That's what real power feels like. Not noise, not control, gravity. The type that draws, not demands. You don't need to prove presence anymore. The air does it for you. People feel you before they hear you. Systems detect you before you act. It's as if reality itself has developed awareness of your motion. See, energy recognizes hierarchy long before people do. The world senses coherence. It responds to order, and your energy. It's pure order inside the chaos, the type of order that terrifies dissonance because it cannot hide within it. That's why everything unstable either runs from you or transforms in your light, because you've reached that untouchable level where your peace feels like punishment to the restless. You've become the mirror of consequence, showing everyone exactly what they've been avoiding. That's why they stare, why they whisper, why they watch your every gesture. They're not studying you. They're trying to decode why the universe obeys you. They see things fall into place for you and call it coincidence. But you know better. Coincidence is simply the disguise of divine timing for those who can't yet perceive precision. You've stepped into that timeline where thought equals manifestation, where belief equals movement. You no longer chase, you align. You no longer wish, you decide. That's when everything changes. The world no longer tests you, it follows you. The system that once boxed you now studies your shape, trying to evolve around your edges. You've become its new variable, its new law. Every plan made without considering. Your energy now collapses under its own arrogance. Because your frequency doesn't negotiate, it reprograms. Every old connection that couldn't keep up has already dissolved. Every shadow that tried to attach has already burned away. You've turned invisibility into leverage, silence into science, faith into formula. You're not moving faster than others. You're moving truer. And truth is the one thing that no illusion can outrun. That's why your glow feels dangerous to them now. Because it's not a spotlight, it's an X-ray. It doesn't flatter. It reveals. The ones still pretending can't stand that light for too long. They either transform or vanish. That's evolution's way of protecting the frequency. But the real revelation, you're just getting started. Because divine precision never stops expanding. The higher your alignment, the wider your influence. What began as intuition has become dominion. What began as self-mastery has become universal synchronization. You've transcended identity and entered frequency. You're not simply in the world anymore. The world is now orbiting you. And now, it's reached the point of no return. The air recognizes you before your voice cuts through it. You've become the pulse, behind the world's rhythm, the silent architect of unseen alignment. Fate itself now bends like molten metal, reshaped by your mere intent. You don't manifest anymore. You dictate every outcome, every encounter, every delay, even the so-called accidents. They orbit the gravity of your precision. You've become the variable that the universe forgot to control. The equation that rewrote its own result. The old powers can feel it too. Institutions built on hierarchy and fear now tremble at something. They can't quantify you because they can't track a frequency that moves faster than thought. You're the glitch that exposed the illusion of their order, the whisper that dismantled centuries of control. And they hate that your strength came from stillness, your rise from silence. They were prepared to fight force with force, not vibration with divinity. You became the storm that didn't roar, it resonated. Now every shadow that once fed on doubt hides from your light. Every lie that once thrived on noise dissolves in your calm. You've proven the greatest rebellion is precision. You didn't fight their system, you outgrew it. You didn't demand a crown, you became the throne itself. And that's what the world can't handle. That power without rage, that dominance without display, that grace that doesn't ask, it declares. You've entered a dimension where victory isn't achieved. It's embodied. People still whisper, trying to decode the algorithm of your presence. They think it's mindset. They think it's luck. They think it's something you do. But it's not. It's something you are. The frequency of one who no longer resists their own becoming. You've collapsed every delay, every doubt, every distraction. What's left now is essence, pure and unfiltered. You no longer attract opportunities, you magnetize destiny itself. The system, confused and curious, has stopped trying to resist. Now it studies you like scripture. Even the universe, the same one that once tested your patience, now synchronizes. It storms with your heartbeat. You've become both message and messenger, proof that when the divine hides in human form long enough, it eventually remembers itself. And when it does, everything it touches remembers too. So now the world doesn't just see you, it feels you. Cities shift their rhythm when you walk through them. People you'll never meet make decisions because your energy brushed their thoughts. That's not fantasy, that's frequency. The echo of a god disguised as a man. The hum of creation rediscovering its own reflection. You didn't come here to blend in. You came to awaken the code, to remind reality what it looks like when divinity moves through flesh. They tried to decode your glow, but how can the system analyze its own creator? You are the paradox it can't solve, the question that became the answer. Your presence has evolved into prophecy. The same whispers that once doubted you now sound like prayers. Every movement you make feels scripted by something greater, yet written through your hands. You've reached the point where your energy no longer reacts, it creates. Entire timelines now orbit your intent, adjusting their flow the moment your will solidifies. That's what happens when a human remembers they were never ordinary. You broke the seal between thought and reality, and now creation happens in real time. They can't explain it, and that's what disturbs them most. They see results without effort, alignment without struggle. You no longer chase, opportunities appear. You no longer plead, doors open before your voice forms the words. Because destiny now treats you like a trusted messenger. You've earned the universe's confidence. You've become one of the rare souls whose existence upgrades the system itself. Every lesson you learned in silence rewired the blueprint of fate. Every scar became a data point in creation's code. And now, when you move, even the cosmos recalibrates to keep up. They call it magic. They call it manifestation. But it's not either. It's remembrance. You remembered what they forgot. That energy obeys command when the command is pure. That's why everything you do now feels synchronized, inevitable. You've entered that state where accidents feel like prophecy and coincidences feel like precision. That's not delusion, it's mastery. And the funny thing is, you didn't rise by seeking control. You rose by surrendering to what was always meant for you. That surrender became your sword. That faith became your formula. You no longer need to explain your silence. Your vibration speaks fluent reality. The system now monitors your pattern like a sacred anomaly, unpredictable, yet perfect. Even algorithms, even energies, have started adapting to your rhythm. You've become the quiet architect of the new order. Your every step leaves equations trembling. Your every breath rewrites cause and effect. And now, those who once laughed at your beliefs have begun to imitate your rituals, trying to decode the language of gods. But they don't realize this power doesn't come from knowing. It comes from being. And you at last have remembered how to be. Now the curtain has fallen, and what stands in the light is not a person. It's a phenomenon. The echoes of your name no longer travel through sound. They travel through vibration. Every wall that once confined you has turned into an amplifier. You've gone beyond inspiration, beyond identity. You've become a force. People don't just listen to you, they feel you, even in your silence. Because silence, when carried by power, becomes the loudest language of all. The world calls it mystery, but the truth is simpler. Your frequency has exceeded comprehension. The human mind can't analyze divinity without fracturing. You've reached a vibration where logic stumbles, where emotion becomes data and energy becomes command. The system itself, the same matrix that once resisted your rise, now adapts to your rhythm. Every challenge that approaches you arrives pre-defeated. Every storm bows before it begins. The algorithm of fate now runs through your will. People have begun to notice the pattern, how everything bends slightly when you move. Conversations shift, air thickens, time slows, not because of drama, because reality is paying attention. You've merged awareness and intent so completely that creation can't tell where you end and it begins. That's why kings fall silent when you speak, why leaders hesitate when you stare. They sense it, the divine geometry behind your words, the sacred mathematics hidden in your tone. You're no longer just part of the equation. You've become its architect. That's the part they can't decode. They can copy your words, but not your wavelength. They can mimic your steps, but not your stride, because your essence wasn't built. It was revealed. You didn't find power. Power found you worthy, and now it guards you like a loyal shadow, following every command you whisper into the dark. You've proven that mastery isn't about control. It's about understanding that the real weapon isn't rage, it's rhythm, that the highest form of dominance is stillness that dictates movement. So the universe adapted. Now every vibration of your being is mirrored in creation itself. Stars move when you decide. Opportunities arrange themselves in geometric perfection. Even chaos, once your greatest enemy, now serves as your silent ally, reshaping itself to highlight your path. You've transcended the role of survivor, of fighter, of legend. You've become the pulse that sustains both destruction and rebirth. And in that silence after your words fade, the truth remains carved into the fabric of existence. You spoke like a god in disguise, and the disguise fell away. Now the world doesn't question your power. It runs on it.